This conference will now be recorded.
Yes. Welcome everyone. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Welcome everyone. While you're waiting, if you want to sign in by putting your name and email address in the chat box, that would be very helpful. We can keep track of who joined us this afternoon. The chat box is also where you can send in questions. We'll be keeping track of those. And just a heads up that we're going to record this PowerPoint or record this webinar and provide the PowerPoint and link to the video afterward if you want to circle back. Also, we need everyone to be on mute so that everyone can hear the presentation. All right, everyone, we're going to get started. So as a reminder, please sign in by typing your name and email address into the chat box, as well as any questions that may arise throughout the presentation. Please make sure you're on mute, and note that we'll send out the details from this meeting afterward if you want a copy of the slides or to refresh your memory about the webinar, we'll send that out. And we're just going to get started. So thanks for joining us for this quick call. We are so thrilled by the amazing response from our community of Census ambassadors who really are the champions for our community. You are going to be striving to ensure that all of our residents get the power and the resources that they deserve by completing the census. We've had 121 Census ambassadors sign up so far. We're still collecting applications. 39 organizations were recommended for mini grant funding. 56 individual volunteers have signed up, and 15 organizations have signed up voluntarily to incorporate census into their programming. So we are so thrilled by this amount of investment by community leaders who know that they reach hard-to-count communities and that they are thrilled to support census outreach. As I mentioned, we're still recruiting volunteers, so please, and census ambassadors, so please direct them to our website where they can sign up. We do not have additional mini grant funding, but we have space for volunteers and organizations. So we'll move along here. Alessia Simmons, our outreach manager, is going to give you a quick census overview. I know a number of you have heard our presentation before, so this will not be robust, just a quick overview.
Great, thank you, Casey. So first, I would like to preface this presentation with a note that in-depth training will be provided when we host our outreach trainings in the new year. So this presentation is not meant to make you experts just yet, and instead will introduce you to our work and provide a broad, high-level overview of what you all signed up for. Also, this presentation, as Casey mentioned, will be sent out to you, so no worries if you miss anything. With that said, I will jump right in. So what is the census? The census is a mandated count by the federal government taken once every 10 years of every person living in the United States, regardless of age, sex, ethnicity, citizenship, or immigration status. Census 2020 is really our one chance to determine how our collective money and political power will be distributed until 2030. For more information on basic Census 101, including videos, webinars, and materials, please do visit our website, and that is www.acgov.org/census2020. So who gets counted? We are to count every adult, child, and baby living at each mailing address, regardless of familial relationship or citizenship status. We should count people at their usual address, which is where they live and sleep most of the time. People who do not have or cannot determine a usual address are counted where they are on April 1st, which is Census Day. So what will the census ask? The census is going to ask 9 questions of person 1 and only 7 questions for the additional people living in the address. So as you can see on the slide, on the left is a summary of the questions, which includes how many people are living at the address and how the residents are related to each other. Whether the property is owned or rented, it'll ask your name, phone number, sex, age and date of birth, ethnicity, and race. On the right hand of the slide, you can see a sample form, which is what the actual census is going to look like. And we have the full census form available on our website if you're interested in seeing that. And we also have the Spanish version on our website as well. So starting in March, on March 12th, addresses will receive a letter in the mail inviting folks to respond to the census online or by phone. This option is available in 13 languages, which includes English. Reminder postcards will be sent to addresses who don't respond to the initial invitation, and starting on March 8th, paper forms will be mailed to addresses that have not yet completed the census online or by phone. I'm sorry, April 8th. The paper version is also available in English, is going to be available in English, and for areas with a certain threshold of Spanish speakers will receive a bilingual English and Spanish form. The paper form will not be available in any other languages. Video and glossary guides will be available in 59 languages, and you will receive more information on how to use and access these guides at an upcoming training in the new year. So to bring this topic back to Alameda County, to refer to the power of the census, we receive about 60% of our funding from state and federal resources, which are determined by census data. Each person that is missed costs the county about $1,000 per person per year for 10 years. And an undercount of only 6% equates to about $1 billion loss over 10 years. But to put this in a positive light, this means that every person you help to get counted means that $10,000 of the funding our community deserves is coming back to programs in Alameda County. These resources pay for basic functioning of our government and community benefits and pay for education, housing, roads, healthcare, social services, and more. As I mentioned, if we undercount by only 6%, Alameda County would lose $1 billion over 10 years. This is impacted by the fact that 26% of Alameda County are considered Harts Account, and based on the state of California's Harts Account Index. Depicted here is a map of Alameda County showing all of the census tracts. Each box represents a census tract and its rating on the Harts Account Index. The darker the shade, the harder to count the census tract is to count based on its demographic makeup. This list shows some of the demographics that make up our Harts Account community and includes young children, large or overcrowded households, senior citizens, foreign-born residents and immigrants, people of color, renters or frequent movers, those who are linguistically isolated, households with without a computer or internet access, people who have been or could be targets of law enforcement, low-income households, unhoused individuals, people without a high school diploma, and people with disabilities. Each of you have been enlisted in this work because you either come from these communities that are important to reach, or you advocate on behalf of these communities. In sum, you all are trusted messengers among the very people that we are trying to intentionally reach out to in order to have a complete census count in 2020. And the dark shaded areas are depicted on the map is where we need this work to be done. All right, we have enlisted you all to join our effort because in addition to us being in a particularly Harts Account county, there are additional challenges to a complete count. This includes fear and distrust in our government, privacy concerns on how our data will be used, the previously proposed citizenship question, which will not be asked, but has still instilled fear in the hearts of our immigrant community. And based on fear and distrust alone, the U.S. Governor's Accountability Office predicts a 17% reduction in self-response. This also is going to be the first digital census, so it'll be the first to be conducted primarily online, which raises cybersecurity concerns. However, the census form will be available on mobile devices. There are also cuts in federal funding. So the Census Bureau has limited resources and staffing for this census, has conducted only one census test when they usually conduct 3. So we are also predicting that they will have fewer follow-up visits. They usually try to reach people who have not yet completed the census up to 6 times, but we are anticipating that they will only do that 3 times. And then they're also having challenges in hiring for enumerators. So we are counting on our census ambassadors to help overcome these challenges, whether it's informing the community that our census responses are safe because our answers are protected by law, staffing a questionnaire assistance center, or having census support at events where you can help bridge that digital divide, and by something you're already doing, which is giving your time to help fill the gaps at the Census Bureau. So to wrap up, the census matters because it provides demographic data, which helps us to enforce equity laws. It determines our political representation and brings billions of dollars back to our community for critical social services. Census ambassadors, so everyone on this call, are critical to ensuring our community got the data, dollars, and decision makers that we deserve. I will now pass it back over to Casey to finish the presentation.
Thank you, everyone. So that's, again, a quick Census 101 that you'll be receiving in greater detail in future trainings. So I wanted to break it down by the calendar, what Census ambassadors can expect in 2020. So in January and February, this is our trainings and preparation section. So first thing is to sign up for the trainings. And we will send out an email to all of you in early January with those dates. There will be multiple options and at locations throughout the county. And then you want to begin informing your community, sharing information about the census. We have plenty of materials for you. We have GIFs and videos and images and talking points all available for you as you become census experts. So that is, again, on our website. We'll send the link in the follow-up email. Also in January and February is a good time to start scheduling events if that's what your project entails, or to begin setting up the questionnaire assistance centers. A number of our folks are volunteering at existing questionnaire assistance centers at libraries. So in that case, the librarians will do the technology setup, and volunteers should just be in touch with their library lead, which we will connect you with shortly. And individual volunteers, we're going to do the matching in January as well. And then we will have our trainings. We'll get more into that shortly, and that's where you'll get your materials and be prepared then to do the actual outreach, which starts on approximately March 12th. And again, that date really kicks things off because that's when addresses will begin to receive information in the mail, prompting them to participate. So during the outreach period, that's when we're really doing the projects that you applied for, such as events or adding the census to an existing program that you already operate, perhaps hosting a census Sabbath or a census week at your school or a program. And this is when our questionnaire assistance centers will be operational, up and running. This is when you could do community canvassing if you're adopting your block. And while you're doing your outreach, we really need to track and monitor our progress so that we'll be giving you tools to do so. and expecting to hear from you regularly about how the outreach is going, really in more of a quantitative metric, not a lot of reports, but simply how is the outreach going and how many people are you reaching. And then we're going to host a complete count committee, that's what CCC stands for, in April. And that's when we will assess our outreach thus far. We'll look at the response rates by census tract and see where we need to refocus our efforts, highlight the great things that are working well, and address any issues. So you'll be in touch about that. It's optional, but we'd love your insight, and you're part of this important team, so we'd appreciate your participation. And then in May through July, that is what the Census Bureau refers to as the non-response follow-up period, when enumerators, census takers, go door to door to count people who have not yet responded. And so your outreach may extend into this window, and that's great because the online and paper and phone options will still function during those times. And we definitely want to continue to fulfill all the outreach that's necessary, provide questionnaire assistance, and ensure that everyone is able to participate. It's a good time to also send follow-up communications and reminders out to your folks. And then if you are receiving a mini grant, there will be a final report due within this window at the conclusion of your project. Okay, what are the expectations? Okay, so we've broken this down into two categories. These are volunteers without projects planned. These are general volunteers who have said, put me where you need me, or I know folks in this community, send me here. So that's awesome. We are excited to pair you up. And the expectations for you is that you work directly with the site that you're assigned and matched up with, so such as a library, and we will make sure that that's a warm introduction. You're very clear on the expectations. They are working hand in hand with us. We manage the training and the reporting, and you handle the logistics with them, such as when are your hours, how are you doing publicity to get people to your events and questionnaire assistance. And those volunteers will also attend their February training in the early part of the month. They'll help out with the reporting, and again, optional to attend our complete count committee in April. The second part of the chart is for ambassadors with projects that are planned. These are individuals or organizations, and their projects could include the Adopt a Block or hosting census events, hosting a census Sabbath, making a presentation in your community. They will attend training in February and pick up your outreach materials then. And they were also expected to follow our reporting procedures. Again, these will be simple, but they're needed to be regular so that we track our progress. And also hope they can join us at our April Complete Count Committee meeting. And I just want to specify that organizations who are receiving funding, mini grants from the county, we will be in touch with them shortly about the amounts, about the scopes of work, the real commitments that they're making to the projects. So we'll be in touch with you in the coming weeks as we process that information. All right, so when are these trainings? So for mini grantees, we're going to have a onboarding specifically for you. That will be in late January. And then individual volunteers and organizations will be trained in early February. Again, those dates are not yet finalized. We will send them out in early January via email. We'll follow up with you to make sure you sign up for the training that best suits your availability. And this is really where you're going to get lots of great information, which I think is the next slide. It's a more thorough Census 101 so that you can thus give a census elevator pitch. You can talk to people about the census. You can answer their questions. It will go over the do's and don'ts of census outreach. It will provide you the actual materials, and we're in the process of making handouts based on all the great feedback we've gotten from all of our stakeholders about what messages people are going to need to hear on the ground to make this clear and straightforward. There's going to be event templates we'll provide you that you can add your details in for your events. We will have a number of videos produced by the Census Bureau. Again, Alessia mentioned this, in 59 languages. We're adding a few more. And then we'll have other instructional videos or informational videos for you to share. Additionally, we'll also talk about the helpline and the chat bot. These are places that can assist you when you're out in the field, and if you are to get stuck on a question you don't know how to answer, there are places where we can get assistance. And then also we want to make sure any questions you have about doing the outreach get covered. So, all right, here's what a Census Ambassador looks like. We drew you up a little image. In the top, from all the great training, you will have lots of knowledge that you'll have in your brains. We hope that you have a smile because you're going to be warm and ready to assist folks and encouraging people to participate. We will give you a button that's kind of to be able to catch people's attention about the census. And again, we'll distribute that at training. This is in lieu of t-shirts. We know you're all on the go and it'd be harder for us to distribute all of that. So we thought buttons would be easier to capture people's attention and you can wear them all the time, particularly when you're fulfilling a shift or doing your census work. We're also going to create badges for our ambassadors with a lanyard, and these will have kind of the official seal and will read Census Ambassador so that you can show folks that you have been trained to be doing this type of outreach. It won't have the U.S. Census Bureau logo on there, and that's because you don't work for the Census Bureau. You're just a community ambassador for Alameda County. And on the back of the badge, it will also have some reminders and instructions for you, kind of helpful tips, websites to point people to, etc. So it's kind of a helpful tool. Consider that your uniform. And then you'll also have access to all these materials that we know will inform our community members, and we need your help in distributing those. And again, those are accessible in multiple languages to assist you. If you aren't able to communicate with someone who comes in seeking assistance, we'll be able to point you to places. You'll be able to point them to places where they can get assistance. Okay, so we mentioned reporting. We are going to provide you tally sheets, simple handouts where you can count the number of people served, the number of censuses that you're confident were completed, a place to denote any issues that you're having, and also to highlight great stories. You know, people really grateful for the support, people excited, people who brought their whole family of 10 people in to get counted. It'd be great to hear on the ground the real highlights and positive stories on the ground. So we're asking everyone to submit this at the end of each shift, which could be the end of an event, or if you're doing a 2-hour shift at a library assisting patrons, that you would submit this afterwards. Again, it's going to be on paper, and inevitably there is a Google form where the information will be shared with the county. And each person's kind of process will look a little bit different, but the tally sheet, you'll become very familiar with it because you'll be using it regularly. And just to wrap up, before we take your questions, I want to highlight what you should be doing now and then what are the next steps. So if you want more information, we encourage you to go to our website where you can see lots of materials, watch videos, and then we want you to share that information. We need to start the buzz about the census. Again, we've produced a lot of content for you in what's called the Messenger program. So if you click on that box, you'll see lots of newsletter blurbs and social media and other things that are easy for you to share. And in terms of next year, in January, you are going to be volunteers who need projects. We'll match you up with sites. We will also allow you to, this is when you need to sign up for training, so check your email. And then the trainings will be conducted in late January and early February. And again, that's our time when we're planning to distribute materials to you all. And then at every shift that you're doing, that's when we need to be reporting our outreach metrics. All right, so now we like to take your questions. We're going to open that up in the box here. Also a reminder to please sign in with your name and your email address so that we can see who has joined us. We're thrilled that you could be here, and we ask that you join in, sign in on the chat box or send us your questions. Great question from Pastor Van Hook. Thanks for being here. So, do you count family members who are incarcerated? The answer is no, because they will be counted at the location in which they are incarcerated. And that's conducted by the Census Bureau separately. This is a good reminder about the residency, who gets counted at each address, and we will go into that in much more detail about at the training itself. So really, like, where does a college student get counted? If I have children that live in 2 different houses, how do we count them? We'll get to all that in the training, and it will be in the materials as well. So yes, our presentation has been recorded. We're going to send around the video and also the slides. And I think the question above is, have all the mini grantees been notified? We have all been notified. A little bit more of the details haven't been shared, but we've informed you that you will be receiving grant funds, and we'll be in touch with the mini grantees shortly. All right, so this will be the final call for questions. We have a couple minutes left. Thanks, Royal. Let's see. How do census ambassadors interact with paid census staff? This is a good question. Essentially, you'll probably have pretty minimal interaction with paid census staff. If you are conducting canvassing out in the community, we're asking everyone to wrap that up before the census enumerators go door to door, which is after May 3rd. So we really want to concentrate our efforts earlier, between March 12th and May 3rd, so that folks can complete their census at their address, and then they will not receive a visit from the census staff. So I think that speaks to the question there. They're all friendly people. You can say that you're a census ambassador, you're doing great work. We're essentially on the same team as those paid census staff, but our role is a little bit separate and hopefully concentrated before they get out in the community. Any final questions? All right, well, thanks for getting the conversation started. Thrilled that you could join us. Please sign in if you haven't done so already. And we will be in touch with you shortly. Please feel free to always send questions to Alessia if you would like. Alessia, ALLESSIA.Simmons@acgov.org, and she will be sending around her email when she sends the follow-up to this call. But again, thanks so much, and expect to hear from us shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.